Welcome to the IEEE Smart Cities podcast, where we explore how cities translate innovation, smart city thinking into tangible, inclusive, resilient and sustainable outcomes for people and communities. I'm Peter Ahmad, an experienced urban planner and podcaster joining you from Cape Town, South Africa. And alongside me in this series is Dr. Beverly Passian, based in Utrecht in the Netherlands, an academic leader in smart cities, innovation and urban transformation. Together, we examine smart cities not only as technological showcases, but as places undergoing deep institutional, social and systemic change. Guided by the IEEE Smart Cities vision and the contest that supports that, the IEEE Smart Cities contest, this podcast focuses on the core pillars that underpin effective smart city initiatives: good governance, trusted data, interoperability, human-centered design, and measurable public value. And today's episode focuses on Ettlen, a small village within the municipality of Borchen in Germany. It's a compelling example of how smart city principles can be successfully applied at any scale. Our distinguished guest is Dr. Ulrich Ahle, Chief Executive Officer of the Gaia X European Association and a long-standing community leader and digital innovator who has played a central role in the transformation of Etteln. The conversation explores how Etteln moved from challenge to opportunity through a clear strategy, strong citizen engagement and the deliberate use of open, standards-based digital infrastructure. We discuss how fibre connectivity, sensor networks and an open smart city platform were integrated across domains, across the departments to include mobility, environment, emergency responses, healthcare and civic participation, explicitly avoiding data silos, and that's what led Etteln to be a two-time winner of the Smart Cities contest. So this episode offers a powerful case study of how to replicate, how to design human-centered smart city models, and demonstrating, when grounded in community needs and open architecture, that innovation can deliver lasting value well beyond the city boundaries. As always, we hope you enjoy this episode. So it's just gone 3:15 on Thursday, the 26th of February. Absolutely delighted across the time zones to be back in Europe today with my co-host, Beverly Passian. Bev, how are you keeping this afternoon? All well your side?
Yeah, everything's great here. It's an early spring here in the Netherlands, which always makes me look at the temperatures in Canada where they have a real winter.
I was going to say, we're into the minus double digits there, I have no doubt. No doubt.
Absolutely.
Across the border there, we are welcoming today Ulrich Ahle from the village and town of Etteln. He's going to tell us a bit about what that city did, how it went about winning 2 times the IEEE Smart Cities contest and their approach to that within their municipality. Welcome, Ulrich. How are you keeping today and where do we find you?
Yeah, hello, Pete. Hello, Bev. I'm doing very well. Today, I'm in my home office, which is in the little village of Etteln. Similar as Bev in Utrecht, also here in Etteln, we have beautiful weather. Last week, we still had snow, and now it's close to 20 degrees Celsius. So it's really a beautiful day outside, at least what I can see through the windows.
Well, we've dealt with the weather. Perhaps we can talk about the geography and how Etteln finds itself located within Germany, what its economic background has been, and then we can talk a bit about the changes that you've put in place, the reforms to build towards a smart city approach.
Etteln is located in the western part of Germany. It belongs to a small municipality called Borchen. Borchen consists of 5 different villages. In total, Borchen has 14,000 inhabitants, and the little village of Etteln just 1,750. The next largest city is the city of Paderborn. You might not have heard of it. It's a bit east of Dortmund. At least the soccer fans might be familiar with Dortmund. That's where we are located. And Paderborn is the home of a former German computer pioneer. The company where I also started in my earlier years, when I started my career, this was called Nixdorf Computer. Based on this history, The region around Paderborn has the highest density of IT companies within the region of North Rhine-Westphalia, which is one of the countries here in Germany.
So we're talking about a very small scale, as you say, a village,
Yeah.
far, far from the clutches of a city in its scale. But the idea that you've got a high concentration of IT and IT-related companies in that space. Tell us a bit about what those sort of immediate challenges that are facing the community there, how they relate, and how some of the solutions that were put in place started to address the challenges, the desire to bring the municipality into the 21st century and beyond.
This started, I have to calculate, in the meantime, 14 years ago. And we had two main trigger points for this. First was the primary school was supposed to be closed because there were not enough children anymore, just 43. In North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany, it is not allowed to continue a primary school if you have less than 45 children. At that time, an association was created called Etteln Active, and they successfully fighted to keep the primary school in place. That was the first trigger point. The second trigger point, at that time, I was the leader of the largest political party in the city parliament of Borchen. And the former mayor one day came to me and told me, Ulrich, we have so many applicants for building houses and looking for spots where they can do it. But in our two main villages, and they are called Nord and Kirchborchen, the municipality had no publicly available building spots anymore. And when he told to the applicants, I am able to offer you 2 publicly available building spots in Etteln, he often got to hear, I don't want to go there. So an old-fashioned image, somewhere behind the moon, too far away from the city of Paderborn. And these 2 trigger points led us to organize workshops together with the citizens, with the inhabitants of Etteln, moderated by a process moderator who guided us for 2 years. And in these workshops, we became aware of our strength as a village, but also about the weaknesses. And we created 3 working groups, one working on building houses and infrastructure, another one on collaboration of school and kindergarten and education, and a third one working on the topic of marketing. This marketing working group has created a new logo for the village, a new slogan, Etteln, there's more in it, a new website, an image film, a brochure, and so on. And back in 2017, 2018, this marketing working group came to the idea that digitization has a potential to become a marketing kernel for the village. And at that time, now 8 years ago, we targeted to become the most digital village in Germany. We set up a lot of activities, and the first one was already back in 2018. We organized a future conference for digitization in rural areas. It was a conference with high-level speakers, and that was a starting for the 2 trigger points and the starting point for our digital transformation journey.
You've had a certain trigger event, particularly around the demographics, the shifts in your numbers of youth, and then you've looked at this, as you say, a catalyst for change and re-imaging of the municipality. Fantastic. Bev, maybe you want to come in, particularly, I know your love of the social side. I'm sure this is resonating and making you very happy in terms of the inception of it. But just a few pointers from your side as we kick off.
One of the goals of this podcast series is to inspire other cities. And I'm always curious to see where the connections can be made in terms of lessons that can be shared. And so when I hear about the motivations that Ulrich and his village experienced in terms of those 2 trigger points, I'm wondering what you might encourage others to look for in terms of inspiration. Not every village or city around the world will have an elementary school opportunity in front of them. What else might you encourage people to look for as sources of inspiration?
What we simply see nowadays, and this was a bit different 8 years ago, but today for everyone it is clear that digitization, that data have a large potential to increase the quality of life of people living in villages, but also in cities. Yeah, so that's what the smart city is about. What we had to find out, and this was very clear to the people in our village at an early stage, before being able to start this initiative, we need the sufficient infrastructure to be able to connect things, to be able to exchange data, to be able to give access to data. We had the situation that our network was not the best at that time. So talking about fiber to the home, this was deployed within our village, but then roughly 55 houses and farms outside of the village were left out. And that was our first joint activity of the people in the village. And this is one thing which is very important, to take the people onto this journey. And we are doing digitization not on the purpose of digitization, but to improve the quality of life of the people living in the village in our case. This first project we did, we deployed 30 kilometers of fiber on a voluntary base of the people in the village. So we did it ourselves because our small city, Borchen, was not in a position to do it for us. But having the target to become the most digital village in Germany, it was clear to us, first we need to put the infrastructure in place. 65 people out of the village worked half a year to deploy 30 kilometers of fiber. And now we have fiber, as we say, fiber to the last milk can. And with this, we installed the relevant infrastructure. Then we also deployed a LoRaWAN. Maybe you're familiar with LoRaWAN. Yeah, it's a long-range wide area network. It's a communication technology, not using fiber, using a remote connectivity. This technology has the advantage that it uses only little energy. And we deployed a lot of sensors measuring the groundwater level, the river level, the precipitation, the temperature, counting bicycles, measuring the level in waste containers, and a lot of other things. And these sensors are battery driven, so you don't need to put energy there. And they are remote connected using this LoRaWAN technology. And as it is using very little energy, the batteries in the sensors are lasting at least 5 years. So it is a very efficient technology, quite known in the smart cities domain. On top of this, we have put a digital platform to collect all the data describing what's happening around us, what is happening in the real world. And this is the digital platform we installed roughly 3.5 years ago in Etteln. It is traditional technology. It's a digital platform. In that case, based on fibre technology. Fibre, in the meantime, is the globally leading open source technology for smart cities. Far more than 500 cities around the world are using this fibre technology. And that was the first step for the digitization within the village.
How did you approach working with partners to secure these resources and complement what you had on hand in the village?
First, and that's also roughly 4 years ago, I would say, and a second recommendation for other communities, for other cities starting this process, we put together a strategy how to get from our starting position, being a village somewhere behind the moon, achieving the most digital village position in Germany. A strategy which was originally planned to last 15 years, from 2015 to 2030. Then we looked how to move from the starting point into the direction of our target position. In this project, we needed partners. So we looked for funded projects. We looked also for contributions from partners. So we are working, for example, together with the University of Paderborn, which is close to us, to bring latest research things in. We work together with fibre partners, so a company who has experience in bringing this digital platform into the market. We looked for the right partners to join us and to help us.
I'm trying to understand as well how your efforts fitted with a sort of national agenda around digitization and this idea of smart governance and using the technology
Yeah,
available to.
yeah, yeah.
It was an interesting conversation we had with Berkane in Morocco a couple of days ago, where it was very clear that it was a sort of national directive that in that case spurred them. Then it was the context of their local area in Berkane that they fine-tuned. Here you're talking about a trigger event which was very much a micro localized effort. But I'm trying now to understand, was that part of a broader, and I always think of Germany as being a world leader in its thinking and its tech. How much are these two things aligned? Or is it that actually, irrespective of what your national agenda is, it was imperative for this more rural area to address its context locally?
It completely fits into the overall national strategy. But yeah, I have to put a clear but. Germany is leading in Europe, in some domains, even globally, when it comes to digitization of certain areas. For example, in the manufacturing industry, you have heard of Industry 4.0, which was invented in Germany. And Germany is for sure one of the leading countries in the world when it comes to digitization of manufacturing processes. But looking at the digitization in the public area, where smart cities, smart villages belong to, Germany is 10 years behind the leading countries in Europe. Yeah, we have a big difference within these countries in Europe. There is quite a good ranking of the European Commission called DESI report, the Digital European Society Index, led by Estonia, which is without discussion the most digital country in Europe, followed now by Malta. Malta made big steps. Bev, as you are in Utrecht, Netherlands is on position number 5. Spain is quite good. Germany improved its position, coming from position 25 via 22, now to position 19. So we are proudly leading the last third of this ranking. This translates into 10 years, being 10 years behind. In my former role, I've been working in smart cities for 6-7 years. I saw a lot of digital solutions around the world. I saw what's possible. And within Etteln, and that might be a second message or a third message to organizations who would like to start with digitization, you don't need to invent anything. A lot of digital solutions are available around the world. And that is what I simply did. I spotted digital solutions, checked, could it be used in Etteln? Does it need to be adopted sometimes, to change it a bit? But we had not to invent anything. Having other countries being 10 years ahead of us, we simply need to copy and paste. It is not that simple, but that is the way we did. Germany has set up a national program called Model Project Smart Cities, where 4 years ago, similar at the time when we started with implementing 4 or 5 years ago, put a budget of 820 million euro onto the table, which is quite a lot. Although Germany is not the biggest country, but also not the smallest country in Europe, 820 million is a lot of money. In total, a bit more than 70 cities and regions have been selected. Originally, I wanted to apply for this program, but I had a meeting with my mayor, and he told me, Ulrich, we do not have a single person in our administration with digitization competence. How should we do that? And the CFO of our small city told me, Ulrich, I can not imagine to put a project into our budget where we have to finance 35% of the cost ourselves, because the funding rate in that program is only 65%. And therefore, I was not allowed to apply for that. I'm pretty sure, based on our strategy we had at that time, we would have had a good chance to win or to become one of these bit more than 70 selected cities. Having not have the chance to do so, we looked for smaller funding opportunities and found one within the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, who is taking a bit on the care of the development of rural areas. There we found a nice project and have been able to win a first funded program which had a volume for us of 1.3 million euro. We could spend for the digitalization of our village, and that definitely helped us. And it also helped us, Bev, to get technical partners in to help us to implement part of our vision.
If we look at the Smart Cities contest, correct me if I'm wrong, you were winners in 2022 and you were winners again on 2024, if I'm not mistaken. Twice in 3 years, you won in terms of the developed economy category. Can you tell us about the two different projects, if they were different or if they were a build on, and how those came to be selected?
The first one was when we had implemented our digital platform. One main principle which we are implementing, and that is to bring different domains together. So from waste management, mobility, energy, and so on. And there's one clear principle in our implementation: avoid data silos wherever possible. And this was something which I think was convincing to the jury. In the second one, we had a lot of implementations on top of this digital platform available. For example, based on the sensors, we have developed a flood pre-warning system. We had decades ago a very severe flood in our village where 6 people died. A lot of measures were taken, but now we have more and more the problem of heavy rain situations where a lot of rain is coming down within 1 hour. And even dry side valleys are pouring so much water that we come to flooding situations. Here we have implemented a solution with a flood pre-warning system. I found this system even before Corona, back in 2019, 2020. I've been, I think, 3 or 4 times in Montevideo in Uruguay, and they have implemented that already at that time. Based on fibre technology. So they're using the same technology they're using, and this is another recommendation I can only give to all of those who plan to start. Do not use proprietary technology and do not use proprietary data models and interfaces, so APIs. These were more basic principles of our architectural work. We are not only using open source technology wherever possible, but we are using open standards for data models and also for APIs. And this is a lever which makes scaling and also copying of solutions much easier. So as it happened with the solution from Montevideo in Uruguay. Flood pre-warning was one. Then we have implemented in the meantime an autonomously flying drone, for example, to support the fire brigade. It is activated by the regional control center, where when you call 112 or 110, they activate the fire brigade. And in this moment, when they activate the fire brigade, the drone gets a geo-coordinate, flies autonomously to the place where the fire is, where the accident is. And as soon as our voluntarily fire brigade is in their car, they can see on a tablet computer what to expect at the place where they are going to, where the fire is, where the accident is. In such situations, every minute counts. So they can see, for example, there is a lot of smoke. Put on your oxygen masks already while driving there and being able to go into the building 1 or 2 minutes earlier. And 1 or 2 minutes can save lives. Then we deployed several digital touch displays within the village. So let's say large smartphones, 65-inch. They are used to give access to information, also to the 3D digital twin, which we have created of the village. This is a 3D model, a digital 3D dimensional model of the village. This is connected to our digital platform, and we are able to show data coming from the sensors in the 3D digital twin of our village. For example, waste containers, which are used for used clothes. And we had in the past quite often the situation that people selected their clothes, put them into a plastic bag, wanted to bring it to the waste bin. The waste bin was full. Some people took their back home. Most of them put them just beside, with all the effects coming out of that. And now the people can just look into the digital twin and see whether there's space in the waste container before going there. We have several more, but let me mention one more thing which we implemented also already 5 years ago, and that's a digital village app, which allows the people in the village, and more than half of the people in the village are using this app, with a digital village place where news are shared. There is something like eBay where you can sell goods or search for goods. There is a data space to ask for help. Yeah, for example, I want to cut a tree on the weekend. I don't have a a chainsaw, I think it's in English. Who can borrow me one? This is some examples.
In addition to the environmental projects, the safety projects, the waste management projects that you've mentioned, are there any that you can address concerning housing or public health?
Housing, not that much, because we are at the moment not yet in what is called building information modeling. For health, for example, here we have the situation that 4 years ago, our general practitioner, so our doctor in the village, stopped his operations in the early age of 74 years suddenly, but he was looking for some years to find a successor, but he was not successful in doing so, which is the case in a lot of rural areas in Germany, and not only in Germany, I think. Now we are using his offices. We are using a digital solution where a specially trained nurse, so not a doctor, but a specially trained nurse, is using a lot of digital devices to examine a patient, being guided by artificial intelligence. And all the devices, she and all three are ladies, yeah? All the devices she is using to look into your mouth. You can do a 3D picture of your mouth, the ear, listen to the lung, to the heart, do ultrasonic, I don't know, blood test and skin examination for skin cancer and all this stuff. All results are uploaded onto a digital platform, pre-analyzed by artificial intelligence, and the doctor in our neighbor village, who is participating in this first project in Germany, in this case, he is doing his own analysis of the results. He got recommendations from artificial intelligence, but doing his own analysis and then informing the patient via a video call about the results. And this is a digital practitioner's office. And that is something we implemented in September of last year.
Thank you for that example. It is my wish that, again, listeners of this podcast series be inspired by such examples so that they may not have to reinvent the proverbial wheel back in their villages or towns or cities. So that specific but very relatable example, I think, could possibly do that. Thank you.
Definitely.
How did you find your political background and your ability to operate in the political space translated into the decision-making and the recommendations that were being formulated that got you to this position? So, I mean, I've worked as an official in big metropolitan authorities, and it's always, there always seems to be a degree of tension between the political and the officials. Now, you're coming at it from two different angles, and I'm really interested to get a sense of the experience and your understanding of decision-making as a politician, how that inspired and helped you get across the line on some of these initiatives.
It definitely helped because for several of the implementations we did, we had to interact with officials. I've been in our city parliament for 22 years and got a bit of feeling of how decision processes are going on. And I had the advantage of really being able to create a network to officials, which simply helped us. For example, let me give you one example. When we deployed this fiber network, we had to cross 40 different streets. Yeah, we used an Earth rocket to dig underneath the street and we had to cross 3 streets which belong to the overall administration. Within 1 week, we had the approval from the overall administration to do so. Yeah, and here the network simply helped us, and understanding how decision processes go in the traditional analog world also helps in the digital world. For the success of our project, it was very important to take the people also with us. And I've been for 11 years. There's in German it's Ortsvorsteher. There's no real translation into English. I call it district head for the village of Etteln. I stopped this activity end of last year. We had local elections last year, and I have not applied for it again, as I promised to do so to my wife 5 years ago. That was the last of my period. And now I'm the voluntarily chief digital officer of my village. I don't need to go to the 80th and 90th birthday and the 50th anniversary of marriage anniversary or so anymore. I can focus on the digital topics.
Sounds like you might have saved your own marriage there, Ulrich, from what you're saying.
Kind of, yeah.
You might recall, Ulrich, when we first met, I was profiling projects from around the world and their influence on quality of life in smart cities. And I asked you at the time if any consideration was given to particular gender needs. My current research, I'm working on a book right now on project leadership as reflected through project choices. And I'm wondering if I could revisit that topic with you. Are projects being conceived of or implemented that cater to the specific needs of different genders or certain particular demographic groups?
So my experience is that it is not gender specific. In all the activities, we had women, we had men, we had not diverse people, I think, but at least women and men quite actively engaged. But we took special care of different ages. For this digital transformation of our village, it was important to take everyone with us. And therefore, we trained some voluntarily digital coaches. We created the Seniors Computer Club with people starting from the age of 65, roughly, people who sometimes haven't had any contact to digital solutions before. We bought 10 notebooks. We discussed, should we do it with a tablet, with a smartphone, with a notebook. We finally decided for 17-inch notebooks, so with a quite large keyboard and a larger screen, and then started to help them how to start the notebook, how to connect it to the internet, how to use a mouse, how to hit a certain point on the screen with a mouse, and then to keep the mouse on this spot and do a double click. If you are not used to it, you need to train it. And these are the very first steps. And then how to use our digital village app, for example, how to get access to the different dashboards we have where you see the sensor data, how to use the 3D digital twin, but also questions how to copy pictures from my smartphone to my computer, how to do web meetings with my children who are not living in Etteln anymore, and all this stuff. So that is the Senior Computers Club. And then we have a group called Tomorrow Makers Campus Party, in German, Morgenmacher Campus Party. And these are younger people between 13 and 18, normally born with their smartphone in their hand, using digital media all the day. And we found a way to involve them into the creation of our digital future, so that they are not only consuming digital solutions, but helping us to create them. These are 2 examples of how we are involving the people in our village. And all of that, again, is done on a voluntary basis of the people in the village.
And Ulrich, in terms of projects that you're busy with presently, in terms of building on the successes of the past and obviously with your eye on the future, what is it that you're busy with? And more importantly, from our listeners, where can they find out more about A, yourself, and B, the projects we've been discussing today?
Pete, for what has been realized so far, there's a website called www.didoz.de. Unfortunately, this one is just available in German. DDoT stands for Digital Village Twin. But on our latest project, and this is called Community X, it is a Gaia X Lighthouse project. So since 2 years, I'm CEO of Gaia X, an organization working on the creation of what is called data spaces. Existing technology is and was digital platforms. Now we are creating data spaces, and the project Community X, which you can find as a lighthouse project on the Gaia X website, gaiax.eu, is about migrating fibre-based digital platform in Etteln to become a Gaia X-based data space. With this, bringing Etteln into the digital future. Now, we have proven with what we have installed so far that we are on the actual state of technology, and with Community X, we are creating the digital future. With this, not only for Etteln, but as a blueprint for other cities and communities, not only in Germany, but also abroad.
Fantastic. Well, all the more strength to you and the team there, Ulrich, to the communities that you're serving. And in terms of Beverly, any final questions for Ulrich before we wrap?
One question, thinking of the listeners and future applicants to the Smart City Project program, Ulrich, what would you say to those who are on the fence as to whether or not they should apply to the awards? What would you say is, aside from winning, of course, what are some of the advantages in simply going through the application process?
So I can only recommend to join. It was a good team exercise for us to put the application together. I think still possible to put a little video to it. And in nearly every presentation I'm doing now, I'm using this video. So it is not only a one-time effort which is used once, but it definitely pays out. For us, winning this competition has boosted us in the awareness of at least German, and not only German, but European media. We had last year 18 TV stations in our little village reporting about Etteln. We have been in more than 100 newspapers, the top leading newspapers in Germany and also local newspapers. It was really a push for us. What they really like is the little Etteln has won this global IEEE Smart City contest with the city of Hong Kong on position number 2. And just as a little gimmick, the award ceremony has been end of 2024 in Pattaya in Thailand, where Georges handed over the awards. And just by incident, I've been invited to Hong Kong 2 weeks later to give a presentation on Gaia X, because also China is investing heavily into the creation of data spaces, also smart city data spaces. As I got the information we have won this competition against Hong Kong, I rebooked my flights. I went there 1 day earlier and I met with the smart city people in Hong Kong. And they have applied with a fantastic project managed by the Electrical and Mechanical Service Department in Hong Kong, being responsible for the management of 8,000 buildings. So they are far ahead with integrating building management into their activities. All buildings younger than 5 years are completely digitized. All older buildings are being digitized step by step. They have a large control room I had the pleasure to visit, but they have installed a data silo just for the building management. Next to it is a data silo for mobility. Next to it, a data silo for energy. And I think one of the points which convinced the jury on our approach is that we avoided the creation of data silos, that we had an integrated approach, which of course is much easier in a little village than in a big city, but it could be a kind of benchmark and example for others.
Having served on the jury, I can tell you that's exactly one of the considerations that contributed to your winning. Absolutely. On that happy note, why don't we start to wrap up this wonderful conversation?
Ulrich, from my side, really want to thank you for your time and for your inputs. Really has been a valuable and really interesting conversation always. So much more we could go into. The digital twin, which seems to be becoming if sustainability was the buzzword of the 80s and integration of the 90s, it certainly seems that the digital twin seems to be the way that the world is thinking now. Lots we could go into and possibly pick up again next time around. But for now, many thanks. Have a lovely rest of your week. Enjoy the weekend coming up. And to Bev, always great to see you.
You too,
Look
sir.
after yourself there. Look after yourself there in Utrecht. Ulrich, final word to yourself, sir.
Just, I really enjoyed this recording. Thank you very much, Pete and Bev, and all the best for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best, Ulrich.